This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
The Red Apple Media Podcast Network presents This is Protecting America. Now, here's Emmy-winning journalist Rita Cosby.
And welcome to another edition of Protecting America. I'm Rita Cosby. Well, just as several horrific cases involving heinous crimes allegedly committed by illegal migrants in our country have taken place, President Biden unveils a new measure which creates a pathway to citizenship for 500,000 undocumented migrants. Is he completely tone deaf? Well, joining us now to discuss all of this is Tom Homan. He is a former acting director of ICE Immigration and Customs Enforcement under President Trump. Tom, really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You know, Tom, you are also a former police officer in New York. What is your reaction to, first of all, this horrible case of an illegal migrant who raped a young 13-year-old girl in the park in Queens?
Heinous crime, 100% preventable. He shouldn't have been here. Under the Trump administration, we stopped catch and release. So at a minimum, he would have been in detention and not walking the streets. But under Trump policies, we had a Remain in Mexico program in place. So if he was, and he did, he was one of these claims to asylum, he would have been waiting in Mexico. He wouldn't have been entering the United States. And finally, even if he wasn't in Remain in Mexico and he wasn't detained, under his first arrest, ICE would have arrested him and detained him the first arrest he had. But under this administration, Secretary Mayorkas has said, unless an illegal alien is convicted of a serious aggravated crime, ICE can't put a detainer on. So he could have been arrested before he committed this rape. So, look, it's his administration. I looked at the data just the other day. Under Biden, since Biden had been in the White House, 157,000 convicted criminals have been arrested trying to enter the United States. And that's what we know about, right? 157,000 were arrested. And what we don't know about, we got 2 million gotaways, 2 million people who chose to pay more to get away, 2 million people that didn't want to turn themselves in, didn't want to be fingerprinted, didn't want to be vetted. So many of these are going to be criminals. So look, President Trump was not wrong. He says a lot of criminals come across that border, rapists, murderers. But look, not every person comes across that border is a public safety threat, but many are. And that's just a stone cold fact that we could prevent if we secure the border.
You know, you brought up that stunning number there of 150,000 convicted criminals. You also brought up the 2 million gotaways. Tom, you know this all too well. There are probably many more that we just have no clue that technically aren't even gotaways because we haven't seen them that have slipped into the country, right? So that number is probably exponentially bigger.
Well, the 2 million gotaways are those that we know because we see them on video. Drone traffic or sensor traffic, there's an image we captured, but they weren't apprehended because the border was so overwhelmed. But you're right. If people need to know, there's parts of the border, like the Big Bend sector in Texas, a very mountainous region. There is no technology there. We don't have drones there. We don't have sensors there. And 1,000 people cross there every day. We wouldn't know it. So, 2 million known gotaways and who knows how many unknown gotaways. But here's a bigger story is that, we're reporting alien crime across the country. People need to remember places like New York City, Chicago, San Francisco, Los Angeles, these sanctuary, the biggest cities in our country are sanctuary cities. So the police departments don't even release nationality information. So we don't really know how big alien crime is because these sanctuary cities won't work with ICE, and they won't even release the nationalities of the people that are committing rape and murder and all these other heinous crimes. So we don't even know how bad it is.
Wow. How much of that is politics? Also, that clearly there is a pressure by this administration to minimize it. I mean, even in the cases that we saw in the last week or so, these horrible cases, it seems like the Biden administration doesn't want to discuss it, doesn't want to draw attention. It's almost like, Tom, the matter of fentanyl, which has killed so many American lives. They don't want to talk about that because then the next thing is, where is it coming from? The open border.
No, they're not going to talk about it. They don't want to talk about it. I hope people forget about it in a few days. Look, we had 8 terrorists arrested that people suspect of being terrorists that were planning a terrorist attack. Most of them there in New York City and Philadelphia. Has the Secretary of Homeland Security had a press conference about it? Has the White House had a press conference about it? Not a word. Not a word. And these people were the real deal. My sources from the inside said they were planning an attack. But have you seen DHS Secretary say a damn word about it? Now, here we got the biggest national security vulnerability this nation's ever seen. Here we have 8 people arrested that are planning a terrorist attack. Where the hell is the secretary out there talking to the people? The reason he's not talking about people is because the next question after he gets done briefing, well, why don't you secure the border? You know, no suspected terrorists are crossing the border. You have a record number of people off the terrorist watch just being arrested by the border every single day. Since Biden's been president, last count I had is 367 people off the terrorist watch list have been arrested. 367. Under Trump in 4 years, we had 11. They had more. The Biden administration had more people on terrorist watch lists arrested last month than we had in 4 years under Trump. And of course, if they don't talk about it, they think it's going to go away. But I think America's now fed up. We can't let it go away. These people need to be held accountable. They need to secure the border. And again, when we talk about terrorism, if they've arrested, over 300 southern border, how many of that 2 million came from country-sponsored terror? If you think it's 0, then you're a moron, right? Because terrorists don't want to be called. Why would a terrorist buy a plane ticket or ask for a visa to come to this country like the 9/11 terrorists did when they know there's a vetting procedure in there now? No fly list, FBI screening database, the ICE visa security program. All these databases are in place now if you want to get a visa or a plane ticket. So what terrorist in the world is going to put himself in that process when they can simply go to Mexico, pay the car some extra money, and be got away?
Yeah, and you hit it right on the head. They know the formula that works. They know the easiest path. The other thing that's also been, I think, really illuminating for people, Tom Homan, the average person learning this information, you know this all too well, but a lot of these countries, say Venezuela, say the case of El Salvador, a lot of them are not necessarily sharing information of their criminal individuals that are crossing into the United States. There was that horrible case, of course, in Maryland recently, the mother of 5 who was killed by a guy from El Salvador who apparently committed murder in El Salvador. And yet El Salvador didn't necessarily tell us. These countries are not telling us, right, what their criminal past is. So we have no idea who's coming through.
Well, very few countries share that information. Just many of these countries, these third world nations, they don't have a system like the NCIC. So people need to understand when we say, when this administration, they're totally vetted, they're only vetted against the information that's available for the government to validate. So when they check someone, they vet someone at the southern border, they're running through NCIC, which is our system, which just shows ever been arrested in the United States, or run through III state system. So unless they've been arrested and charged in the United States previously, most of the time they'll come back clean because we don't have access. Now, El Salvador don't have a system like we do. Either does Venezuela, either does Honduras, and many of the countries around the world don't have these types of systems. Many of our enemies, North Korea, Turkey, Syria, Russia, China, they're not going to share national security information with us. Of course they're not. They never have and never will. So when we say we vet them, we only vet them against information available to us. And look, the bottom line is people need to understand, most terrorists in this world, the majority of terrorists in this world can't be found in any database. So we know who they are. And the only way we know a terrorist exists, and he's going to be a database on him, if he's involved with an existing Joint Terrorism Task Force investigation, whether he was implicated, like they found his phone number, address, and some known terrorists they arrested. They found some sort of connection either through wiretap or pocket trash or something, or he was encountered on a battlefield by a soldier during a war, and the retina scan was done, so biometrics were done. Most terrorists in this world aren't in any database. So when we say we check the terrorist databases, we check it against known terrorists and associates that we're aware of. So people need to understand that. Drop the mic sentence is, most terrorists in this world can't be found in any database. That's why it's so important that we do investigative interviews. When they're arrested, we got to do deep dive interviews. But guess what? The Border Patrol is so overwhelmed. All they're doing is taking name, date of birth, biographical information, running through the checks, and releasing them. There's no deep dive interview. There's no going through his pocket trash. There's no going through his luggage for phone numbers and addresses and compasses. They don't do that. They can't do that. Even though they're trained to do that, this administration has told the men and women of the Border Patrol, your job is to process quickly and release quickly because we don't want overcrowding, because overcrowding is a bad optic to the American people. We don't want them to think there's a problem.
My name is Lily, and I've had hidradenitis suppurativa, HS, for years. I finally found some relief since taking Cosentyx. Relief means I can show up more.
Cosentyx secukinumab is prescribed for adults with moderate to severe hidradenitis suppurativa, HS. Don't use if you're allergic to Cosentyx. Before starting, get checked for tuberculosis. An increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur, like tuberculosis or other serious bacterial, fungal, or viral infections. Some are fatal. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms like fevers, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, had a vaccine or plan to, or if inflammatory bowel disease symptoms develop or worsen. Serious allergic reactions and severe eczema-like skin reactions may occur. Learn more at 1-844-COSENTYX or Cosentyx.com.
Ask your dermatologist about Cosentyx.
Ready to make a real impact every day? Join the Active Day Home Care team and help clients maintain their independence in the comfort of their own homes. Make a difference in someone's life as you provide essential daily assistance and protect their health and happiness. Earn up to $20 an hour and enjoy additional perks like optional daily pay, 401k, paid time off, ongoing educational training, and more. Join a team that values care, compassion, and your professional growth. Visit activeday.com to apply.
Wow. I think about a couple recent cases hitting a lot of the points you just hit on. Tom, one of the ones is of, sadly, this 13-year-old girl who was raped in Queens by an Ecuadorian migrant. In that case, he crossed the border. They said to him, here's your, you have a notice to appear. Didn't show up, of course. Apparently there was a warrant for him. Didn't make a difference. He's roaming the country. He crossed, I think it was 2021. I think about the case of Laken Riley's killer in Georgia. In that case, same thing. The guy crossed the border illegally and then was absconding authorities, even though he had been arrested a number of times. It's impossible, right? I mean, to be able to keep track. You can't, these people, the goodwill system doesn't work with these people.
Well, what people need to know, the first scumbag that raped the young little girl, he did miss his date. He was ordered removed. And guess what? Here's the truth. If ICE would have found him a day before that attack, and he had an order removal, ICE couldn't have done a thing. Because this administration, Secretary Mayorkas wrote a memorandum on ICE priorities. And they're not looking for people that's been ordered removed by the court. If you're going to remove somebody who's been ordered by the court to leave, you can only do that if they have a conviction, a prior conviction, for an aggravated felony, a serious public safety offense. So, look, even if they found that guy, they couldn't do anything. It was the same thing on the killer for Laken Riley. They said, well, he was arrested in New York City, in NYPD and in terms of ICE, which would prevent Laken Riley. The truth of the matter is he was arrested for injury to a child. That doesn't meet the matrix that the Biden administration put out to ICE. So even if NYPD would have contacted ICE, they wouldn't put a detain on because it doesn't meet the threshold that's been set by this administration. Unless you're convicted, not arrested, not charged, not suspected, convicted of a serious aggravated felony, ICE can't touch him, even though he's in the country illegally. The Secretary Mayorkas is the only person in the history of this nation, and a secretary anyways, that's telling ICE officers, you can't arrest somebody for being here illegally. He's telling officers to ignore the law because being in the country illegally on his own is enough to be arrested. There's nothing in a federal statute that says you got to be convicted of a crime to be removed from the country. In the United States illegally, you should be a target for arrest or removal, and that's the way it will be under the next Trump administration. If you're in the country illegally, you better be looking over your shoulder because you're not supposed to be here. You had your due process. A federal judge ordered you to leave, and you're going to leave.
That's astounding what you just said about the conviction, too, because think about how long that takes in the justice process, locating somebody, getting the conviction. We're talking years, even in the best cases, right?
And they're released before them. And it's just, it's a double-edged sword. Number one, the sanctuary jurisdictions won't contact ICE, and even if they did contact ICE, it fell through the cracks. ICE couldn't do anything. I looked at when Mayorkas first came out with this directive to ICE. I looked at the number of criminals they arrested and the status of crimes arrested. Then I looked at what we did when I was ICE director. I looked at it when I looked at people we arrested and what type of crimes we arrested for them. I pulled all the data. 82% of the people, the criminal aliens we arrested under the Trump administration, 82% of the criminals we arrested couldn't be arrested under this administration. That means public safety threats are walking across the street, walking down the street every day. If you're convicted, even if you're convicted of domestic violence, not a priority. You're convicted of burglary, not a priority. Convicted of DUI 12 times, not a priority. Many of the most rancid public safety crimes, like over 11,000 people a year die from DUIs. But if you're in the country illegally, in violation of federal law, and you have 10 DUIs, you're not a priority for us. If you beat the hell out of your wife and put her in the hospital, and you're in the country illegally, not a priority. This is what this administration is not telling you. You got to look at its policies and dig into them. And that's why I'm out there screaming every day. This is the most lawless administration in history of this country. And crime is on the rise because you're letting millions of people in this country, you don't know who the hell they even are. You got to take them unless they got fingerprints on file with NCIC. If he says his name is, Jose Sanchez, that's the name that goes on that piece of paper.
Wow. No, that is amazing. And you look at, Tom, some of the latest polls are showing that people are saying there should be a mass deportation. Overwhelmingly, Americans agree with you, and even Hispanics agree with you. But this administration seems to be tone deaf. Don't you agree?
That's why we need to get the hell out of office. We need to evict Joe Biden. Look, this isn't, in all your listeners, I don't care what your opinion is on illegal immigration. I really don't. But when you cause a crisis this big and open that border up, this mass illegal immigration overwhelms the Border Patrol. So most of the Border Patrol, most of them have been pulled off the line to process, make baby formula, make sandwiches, make hospital runs, make airport runs, the care and feeding of these people. When they do that, when you take most of the uniforms off the line, that's when the cartels move the fentanyl because there's no one there to catch you. That's when they sex traffic the children because there's no one there to catch you. And that's when they're going to cross no suspected terrorists because there's no one there to catch you. So regardless what your opinion is on a secure border, when you open it up like this, all the other bad things happen. So they've created a public safety crisis, a public health crisis, and like a national security crisis like I've never seen before.
Yeah, how bad is the threat level right now? Even the FBI director says he is sounding the alarm, that he has never seen sort of alarm bells from so many different directions. How do you feel it is?
We got record numbers of known spectators coming across the border. We got record number of them be arrested by the Border Patrol. Again, terrorists are trained not to be apprehended. They're trained to evade law enforcement. So out of 2 million people, who the hell knows? I know this. We got just since last 2 years, we got over 57,000 Chinese military-age males across the border. I know we have 36,000 nationals of Russia across the border. We got thousands from Syria. We got thousands from North Korea. We got thousands from Iran. We got thousands from Turkey and Uzbekistan. I mean, we got all these countries that hate us. Some have tens of thousands. Some just have thousands, but one is too many because it can't be vetted properly. So this scares the hell out of me. I agree with Christopher Wray. Something's coming. I don't know when. I don't know how many terrorists came across this country with Joe Biden and got away. But someday we're going to find out. And this is going to be a bad day for America.
What do you make of the fact that Democrats are now it seems their strategy next week is going to be the big debate? And there's sort of leaks out there, Tom Homan, and you already see it from we've seen some Democratic governors and others suggesting that Republicans are extremists for their views on immigration and on the border. They're trying to sort of categorize it like it's so overreaching, it's so out of touch. What does that say to you?
Tells me they're either ignorant, which I don't think they're ignorant, they're just political. There isn't a person on Capitol Hill, Republican, Democrat, Independent, that doesn't know that this border is a national security issue. In the intelligence committees are represented by both parties. I know some of the discussions in the intelligence briefings, and they know, but they refuse to admit it because by admitting it, they got to admit their party failed on the border. Their party who controls the White House failed, and that's what's disgusting. I'm disgusted with all of them. I'm disgusted with some Republicans who didn't vote to impeach Mayorkas. I'm disgusted with some Republicans who just voted to give billions of dollars more to the NGOs, which is going it's just going to seed more illegal immigration. At what point do you put politics in the back seat and say, look, this is a national security issue. We all need to be together. This should be a nonpartisan issue, this national security vulnerability, but it's not. And it disgusts me. We got people whose ultimate is to protect this country. They know what a danger it is, and they're going to deny it or not even talk about it because it's going to put their political party in a bad way in the next election. That's what I find disgusting. Everybody up there, except for a few. You got people like Chip Roy who does the right thing every day on immigration. But you got some Republicans don't want to fight the fight. Some Republicans want to keep funding this mess because some of their people who donate to their campaigns want that cheap labor. Chamber of Commerce wants cheap labor. Chamber of Commerce lines a lot of pockets. So I'm just disgusted at the fact that we got people up there, representatives in the Senate and the House, that don't put America first and safety and security America first. It's about lining their pockets and their special interests and making sure their party looks good.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Between two-factor authentication, strong passwords, and a VPN, you try to be in control of how your info is protected. But many other places also have it, and they might not be as careful. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast for 40% off. Terms apply.
Bravo for calling everybody out because it's a security issue for everybody. And finally, Tom Homan, your thoughts on what Biden has at least presented in the last few weeks. It's been stunning. Of course, again, it's right before the debate. It's a few months before the election. He's had all these years. And what he has done really, first of all, the whole thing with the amnesty issue with the spouses, that's an interesting one. The timing of that I thought was just stunning. And also at a time where people are worried about the border. The other is also the executive order on the 2,500 a day average. That's codifying illegal behavior. Your thoughts on both?
Well, number one, it should be 2,500. It should be one. Secure the border. That's what the law requires. Secure the border. We shouldn't allow one person enter the country illegally. So what he's saying is we're going to let 2,500 people commit a crime and not do a thing about it. Enter the country illegally is a crime. So I'm sick and tired of hearing these people. Illegal aliens commit less crimes than Americans. They commit less crimes than white people. Well, look, every illegal alien is a criminal because you enter the country illegally. That is a crime in itself, first of all. And the second thing, what Biden is doing, like on this latest giveaway, it just entices more people. Because once again, he's showing, get into the country, and you don't have to go to court. And if you go to court, get ordered moved, don't worry about it. If you don't go to court and get ordered moved, don't worry about it. Just hide out long enough. Like these people here, 10 years. 10 years, now they're home free. 10 years, now they become green card holders and they're citizens. And they'll be able to vote. This is a message we keep sending. When you reward illegal behavior and tell people, you know what, just go hide out. And in due time, when the Democrats are in power, there will be an amnesty. There will be another docket. Count my word, 400,000 children that to this country illegally to use the cartels that Joe Biden led in the White House. That's your next docket population when they control all three branches of government. God help us. So they're going, look, we've shown over and over again, hang out long enough, ignore a judge's order, hide out, and you'll get something sooner or later. This is just reinforcing what he just did.
Yeah, it is. It just condones bad behavior and gives them even more incentive, sadly, than they already have. Well, everybody, be sure to subscribe and share to this podcast. Tom Homan, really important to have you here on this very, very critical issue. And thank you for just your great service and your love and appreciation of this country and protecting our country so much. I know it's something that you have dedicated your life to, and we're lucky to have you, Tom. Thank you.
Well, thank you for doing what you're doing. Keep up the good work. Thank you for having me.
And everybody, I'll be back soon with another great edition of Protecting America. And of course, you can catch me every weeknight, 10 p.m. to midnight on the legendary WABC Radio. This is Rita Cosby, and thanks for all you do to protect America.